Welcome to the Chronically Healthy Life show. When you hear the word chronically, do you automatically associate with chronic disease? We all do. It's been programmed right into us. But what if we flip that whole idea on its head? Let's discover how we can create chronic health in our bodies, our minds, our finances, our relationships, and of course in our lives. Let's jump right on in. I'm Andy, and joining me in everything is Minna.
So we are about actually exactly a month away from 2024. And this is the time when we start doing like a lot of reflection on what happened last year and setting goals for next year, right? So this episode we call it From Pain to Purpose. So part of it is figure out what purpose is so you can set your goals for next year, what you want to do to fulfill your purpose. So what brought you to From Pain to Purpose?
I think a lot of people need to realize when we're talking about pain to purpose, there's a little bit deeper meaning also, right? A lot of us face a lot of pain where it may be. It could be financial pains, it could be health pains. But in today's topic, we're going to focus a little bit more on the health side, and because we're going to be talking about biohacking. But first of all, why are we biohacking? Is because for both our families, we have a lot of chronic conditions that happen, like what your grandmother had breast cancer, and then your grandfather had Alzheimer's, and then
my mom is also so bad.
Yeah, right. And then of course, the rest of your family's got like
Also so bad.
a lot of skin conditions and stuff like that. For me, my dad had like Parkinson's, my brother's diabetic, there's chronic arthritis, there's high blood pressure, there's cancer. It's all sorts of bad. Right. And what happens is a lot of people, they think that because your gene pool is bad, you're automatically are going to assume that's going to be bad. And for some of you that know my story, I had a really bad accident when I was in my teens that degenerated my body really quickly. So it was actually worse for me. By the time I was in my 30s, I was sort of like having worse health than my dad during the time, which is already in his 50s, in 50s, 60s. So it really put a perspective on what we need to do, the extra step to not only regain our health, but to get to the next level of health, right?
Yeah, so we also want to talk about biohacking because this is the time when you start setting goals for next year. And if you're looking at a health goal, it might be something like, I'm going to exercise more, I'm going to gym, I'm going to eat healthier. But you know that just doing those things in your past history, that doesn't work at all, right? So you need that extra component, which is where biohacking comes into play.
That's right. I love that.
Right.
I
So
love that.
biohacking is basically, the definition is that a do-it-yourself way of human enhancement or augmentation, right? So people try to change different aspects of their biology to either improve their health, their mental health, physical health, performance, their well-being. It could be just make them a little smarter. It could be a anti-aging perspective. So some types of biohacking, they have actually been around for many years. Something like intermittent fasting.
Yeah, intermittent fasting has been around for thousands of years, and there's a lot of religions that actually do extend intermittent fastings during different times of the year, right? And it has pretty amazing results. And I find that a lot of people are slowly doing it. Most people are doing it wrong, but at least they're trying it, right? And this episode is really just trying to get people to understand a little bit more about biohacking and what are the different forms and what they can do for you.
So biohacking really is it just draws from fields from biology, genetics, neuroscience, nutrition, and of course, like I said, to enhance performance, physical and mental performance, improve your overall health and well-being, or achieve like specific health goals such as maybe a weight loss, maybe when you feel better, right? So even though it's there's a lot of science behind it, we are also looking a lot into the ancestry side of it, how they eat, how they fast, how they exercise, how they sleep, right? So it really is almost like a combination of science and art, and what I see.
Took the words right out of my mouth. I didn't even know how. Anyways, the father of biohacking is Dave Asprey. And there are a lot of other prominent figures out there, such as Jack Dorsey. One of our favorites that we follow is Ben Greenfield, and there's a lot of them. Even Tony Robbins, he does a lot of biohacking techniques, and he actually has a lot of companies on the side that are biohacking tools. So it's definitely something that we all need to take our health to the next level. Like you said earlier, so many people are concentrating on just what to eat and how to exercise. That really isn't enough. That may get you back to a certain level, but if you are lacking already, that's where you're going to stop. You may need the extra push, right? That extra edge to get to the next level.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard an interview with Jack Dorsey when he was still Twitter CEO, and it was about biohacking. And he basically was asked, what do you do with cold therapy? And he says this: he has not taken a warm bath, warm shower in years. So all he does is cold showers. So that's one of his biohacks that he does every day. So biohacks really is just a way of building it into your daily life. It doesn't mean you have to do something extra. In fact, it's actually do less, I'm going to say. You have to exercise a little less.
Yes.
Right? But eat a little less, but eat healthier. So it's all about quality, not quantity.
And it's sort of funny you're talking about the cold showers and cold therapy. It's getting cold in certain parts of the U.S. now.
It's getting cold here,
right? Maybe you could turn down the heat. It's actually good for you, right? It's going to make you a little bit more awake. It actually gives you better blood circulation. So many people are so used to warm homes. Bringing it down a little bit is going to save you some money for heat, but it's also going to make you more vibrant too.
Yeah, so people use biohack in different ways, like to take control of their health. That's a big reason. That's why we do it. Of course, there's some people are just wanted to be curious and unusual ideas. Like Ben Greenfield, he does all sorts of weird things. So if you listen to the podcast, it's all sorts of weird. And some people just use it what they see them as flaws, right? Like I don't know, some people may be walking not like normally, so sometimes it can help with that. And of course, trying to extend their lives, like anti-aging or aging gracefully, maybe not aging at all. That's from the olden times of the great emperors.
Correct.
Everyone's been looking for this magic to stay alive forever, but no one's actually found a solution yet. But that's one of those things that people have been searching for a long time.
Exactly, like Minna says, you're trying to boost your brain health. You're boosting your physical health, your how fast you can recover. How strong you are in doing day-to-day things. I think that's very important. Looking better than your age. Some people perceive the flaws as a crow's feet, and they're just like pulling the face back like a big balloon, stretching it out. But that's not the natural way of doing it. And of course, energy. Everyone wants to be vibrant, right? As we get older, most people are lacking energy, and we want to have the energy to go out and enjoy life, but also to spend time with your children, your grandchildren, and your great grandchildren if you're fortunate enough.
Yeah, so there are a lot of different types of in that would encompass biohacking. It's like nootropics, mushrooms,
smart mushrooms, magic mushrooms.
Even caffeine is a type of nootropics, right? And there's also these wearable techs that we're going to talk about after the interview. And there's also nutrigenomics. So basically, look at your genetics profile to see what kind of nutrients you need the most. For instance, Dave Asprey, I was reading his book, right, which is why I built this episode this way. So he's actually has a gene that makes him less able to turn sunlight into like a vitamin D, which is why he needs to supplement more on vitamin D. So that's kind of how you combine your genomics with your nutrition needs.
Correct. And when it comes to things to boost your metabolism, to lower your inflammation or to boost your immune function, there are so many ways of doing it. We talked about intermittent fasting, cold water, cold water plunges, cold water showers. There's elimination diet. A lot of people are allergic to a lot of different foods that they don't know about. And then, of course, the one that we love the most is phototherapy and photobiomodulation, right? And then what can these things actually help people with?
So, I mean, if you're looking for setting a health goal for next year, if you include one of these things, such as including your cognitive function or better sleep, or you conquer your food cravings, you want more energy, you want to be more productive, or you want to improve your mood so you're less cranky, or you have balanced hormones, you have decreased inflammation, you want to decrease your brain fog, or even just extend your longevity. Biohacking is something you probably want to look into, right? So some of the biohackings that we do,
Mm-hmm.
vitamins, nutrients for sure, vitamins and minerals.
Correct.
In the book, Dave Asprey book, he says he eat about, I think he says 150 pills a day.
That's definitely more than we do.
That's more than we do.
Definitely more than
we
we
do. But a
do.
little company, he has a big cup.
Correct. Right. But then, we also, we have PEMF therapy, which is like pulse electronic magnetic therapy. We have a cold plunge tub. I wear ice vests when we're working out. We got compression pants to move for lymph. We use phototherapy. We have infrared sauna. And, sometimes we go to a float tank, right? But these are certain things that you can do as considered as biohacks.
Yep. So there's a whole lot of varieties of biohacking that you can look into just to, enhance your health. So we're gonna take a break, and when we come back, we're gonna have Christy.
And we all hope to age gracefully so we can enjoy later years with energy, vitality, and good health. But so often with age, our bodies show signs of things just aren't the same as they used to be. Our energy, skin, healing recovery time, and sleep all go downhill. If you had physical trauma that happened to your body like I did, this happens much faster. I felt like a 30-year-old trapped in an 80-year-old body. But do you remember as kids the boundless energy we had, how fast we recovered? This is not because of getting old, but because of active stem cells inside our bodies. These are the cells that can generate and regenerate all the cells and structures in the human body. They are the building blocks of our organs, tissues, blood, and immune system. They also serve as an innate repair system everywhere inside the body. But as we get older, stem cell activity slows down, become less effective in repairing damage, and decline. By the age of 20, we only have 1 billion stem cells left. By 30, they decline by 60%. By 50, they decline by 75%. 60 by 90%. And by 80, we're lucky to have 50 million active stem cells. But what if we can naturally stimulate our bodies to reactivate and regenerate new stem cells through phototherapy without drugs? Now we can with our LifeWave X39 stem cell activation patches. Reclaim your youth and look younger, feel stronger, perform better, and heal faster. Get your patches now at lifewave.com/chronically healthy life. It's not anti-aging, it is reverse aging.
Everyone. All right, it is December 1st and we're approaching those holidays and the stress levels are shooting up. So I thought it would be a really great idea to play a fun game of Would You Rather. It's okay for us to put ourselves first through all this holiday stress and remove all these artificial burdens that are put on us by society. We don't have to buy into any of that. So here's an example of Would You Rather. Okay, so say you're buying presents for the kids. Okay, you can say, would I rather brave the stores and go out amongst the people, or would I rather do online shopping? Or in that same category, would I rather blow my entire budget for an extravagant Christmas, or would I rather set a budget and stick to it and maybe get the kids each one really nice thing or a whole bunch of little things, but stay within that budget? Would I rather put myself through this enormous stress of preparing enormous meals and doing a whole bunch of cooking? Or would I rather maybe just choose one thing and maybe make a fun holiday cookie decorating thing with my family? Just one. and have it be a group activity rather than all the pressure on mom. I'm kind of talking to moms because moms take on most of the stress. So you can apply that to anything at all in life, but during the holidays especially, ask yourself, do I really want to do this? Or is this just some artificial thing telling me, I have to because it's the holidays? You don't have to. You get to choose. Choose wisely and enjoy yourself because that's what it's really about. Ciao for now. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Chronically Healthy Life show. I'm Christy Boyd Johnson, and with me today is the lovely Hannah Abad. Let me tell you about Hannah. She is a certified mindset and peak performance coach, razor focused on guiding individuals out of burnout and into breakthrough, from survival mode to healthy high achievement. She is fiercely committed to supporting people in aligned, sustainable personal and professional resilience with her proven and proprietary neuroscience and trauma-informed method. That intrigues me, Hannah, trauma-informed.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that you have quite a personal journey story to go along with this career you have created.
Just a bit. That is a fair assumption to make. I don't know if anybody would just spontaneously go, I think I'm going to dig hard into trauma and trauma education if there wasn't a personal need for it, right? So yes, you have assumed correctly.
Well, the world we live in, I think it's pretty safe to say we all have trauma somewhere.
Absolutely.
And it's, wherever that may be or however deep it may be, it's still there. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think any person can navigate life without trauma. And I even say that with kind of a word of caution, because I think that word has become overutilized and the definition of it has become, there are a lot of definitions attached to it now, but when we understand the different forms of trauma, like we have little trauma and big trauma, it can be acute, it can be chronic, it can be physical, mental, spiritual, emotional. There are so many different forms, but really at the core of it, it is not the event or the circumstance or the environment itself that is traumatic, but instead how it imprints on us. And so, this isn't everybody's a victim or anything, but it is impossible, I think, to navigate life without in some way, in some capacity, having the imprint of trauma on your life.
I completely agree with you. You see it everywhere.
Yeah.
And that sometimes you see someone just knee-jerk reacting to something and you go,
There's a story there. There's something behind that.
Yeah. One thing for me is I can't tell you how many times I thought something was going one way and just the rug got just pulled out from under me, and it was just such an overwhelming disappointment. And I'm wondering how you've had those. I'm sure you've had those rug pulled out moments, and kind of how did that affected you, or maybe how it changed your life? How did that work for you?
Absolutely. There have been a number of those in my life, which is part of my story and part of why I do what I do. And some of the big ones that really shifted wasn't just a surprise moment in life, but really created one of those massive trajectory shifts, like you just mentioned. There are several that immediately come to mind, and one was a really traumatic car accident. I was in a high-speed head-on collision with a drunk driver. Overseas, I was on assignment. So my previous life before coaching, and this is part of the trajectory shift, was I was doing full-time freelance photojournalism for nonprofits. And that meant I was primarily working overseas. And I was overseas working on a project, and this work was very life-giving. It was very aligned with my values, my passion, so I was in a line of work that I was deeply fulfilled by. On assignment, get into a life-altering car accident. I had a severe spinal injuries, severe abdominal injuries, and it was quite the shock, in every kind of way. There was the physical component to deal with, and it was a life-altering situation in the sense that all of a sudden my vocation and what I had completely poured myself into and what I thought was going to be my long-term path, because I was so fulfilled by what I was doing, was suddenly no longer an option. I physically couldn't even do, what I had been doing. The result of it was hospitalizations for a year and on bed rest for 18 months, on and off of bed rest as I was healing and recovering. And so that's just one. And it really kind of set off this ripple effect of this 5-year season of really intense physical rug out from under me kind of moments. I'm recovering from this car accident and having internally what's a bit of an identity crisis of, wait, who am I now? And what am I doing with my life? There's this identity crisis that I was working through. And then as I felt like I assumed I was kind of getting my feet back from under me, I was diagnosed with Lyme disease. And my body was just under severe stress. And they were, the specialist told me, like, this is not a new diagnosis. Like, this has been active in your system for about 6 years. And we see, permanent scarring on your organs and, really deep neurological impact from it. One of the things that kind of set off the discovery process of that was I'm sitting here in my early 20s and I'm losing my memory and my speech is becoming slurred and I'm operating, I have severe joint pain as if I have, arthritis, and going, what is happening? And I kept just trying to push through. And then a year later, again, still in my 20s, I experienced a thyroid storm and I'm going into cardiac arrest. And fortunately, my life was saved. I was able to get to the hospital in time and they were able to stop it before I went into full cardiac arrest. But it was just one thing after another like that. And yeah, safe to say, rugs pulled out from under me, and it really sucked me under for a while. Just the overwhelm of all of that, not just the physical pain and the physical crisis, but the effect on my mental health of just, the weight of that. And then that identity crisis of, I will say this as a former perfectionist and a former workaholic, it really created that identity and value crisis of who am I when I'm not producing and doing and working and on mission with what I'm doing. And I kept trying to push and push, and it was just kicking me back, where specialists are saying, if you keep going like this, you're going to literally kill yourself. And I finally had to come to terms with, instead of trying to work my way around my pain, instead of just trying to find a way to override it, I finally hit a wall that I just couldn't overcome anymore. And that's what created this massive shift into my life. I started to dig into, what is it that I need to do to heal, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. And I had to unpack a lifetime of trauma that I'd been avoiding that I could no longer avoid. There was so much in my childhood years with sexual trauma and abuse and, just a lot of different components like that. But all of that led me to, once I started running from it or trying to work my way around it, I became so deeply rooted. These are the trajectory shifts in my core identity of who I was when you strip away all the doing. And I became, what it led me into was coaching, this calling where I am so passionate about it, so called to it. I have this deep privilege of impacting people's lives. And because of my story, it allows me to speak into people's, other people's stories. And it led me to just the commitment to really healing trauma and understanding the mind-body connection, all this, which would have never happened if that first rug pulled out from under me moment had not occurred.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. That old cliche about it's a blessing in disguise.
Well, you know, I say, like, I wouldn't wish my story on my worst enemy, but I wouldn't trade it for anything, because so much purpose and so much beauty from ashes has come from those experiences. And to have the privilege to see other people wrestling and struggling and in pain and going like, I have a way forward for you if you want to walk through this with me. It's one of the deepest privileges. Yeah.
It is fantastic. I would like to say, do you find that they have to make that choice though? Because if they don't choose to do that, if they're in avoidance, they're not
100%.
gonna,
You know, for a couple of years, like I said, I didn't choose it. My choice was, how can I avoid this? Because I didn't want to address my pain. The pain felt so overwhelming. The discomfort of everything that I had to, where I had to look the ugly in the eye. I didn't want to for a while. And I actively looked away from it. And it's like, being a high achiever myself, being a high capacity person myself, being a leader and a visionary, I wanted to vision and high capacity and high achieve my way around my pain. And it just hit the point where the compound effect, the buildup of all those things coming to a head, the chronic nature of just one thing after another, I finally hit my breaking point, and I had to say, I choose that I'm not going to try to coping mechanism my way around this. I'm actually just going to, instead of trying to work around it, I'm going to move through it. There is absolutely a decision point for every single one of us. And when people come to me, it's when they've hit that decision point of, nothing else has worked. It just prolongs the problem. It just kind of pushes it out. And I'm done hitting this wall over and over again. And I'm ready to be done with it. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That's one of the things I always say is like, I can't beat my head against this wall anymore.
Exactly. When you realize it just keeps cycling, and that every time it depletes you a little bit more, and it removes some of your strength and your resilience until there's almost nothing left. That's when you just go, no more. Like, here's the line in the sand.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's that cycling is the perfect word, because it's this vicious cycle, and it's this never ending circles, or no beginning, no end, just never ending,
Right.
until you do something to break the chain. And it could be something as well. I think one of the most powerful things is what you just said, is to make a choice.
Yeah. You've got to move beyond the awareness to the decision point. Because so often we become aware of it, and then you just keep living with it. And it actually becomes more heavy because you're aware. That decision point is so key.
Yes. You know, I think, and I've actually heard people say this, that many people pride themselves on how strong they are because they endure so much.
Yeah.
And I think, but you don't have to do that. You don't have to.
And the deepest strength comes in confronting it, and if, especially during that season where so much was happening, and I just kept pushing and pushing until I went, I'm going to surrender, I'm going to surrender my approach and take a different approach here. Again, instead of trying to work my way around and override and overcompensate over my pain, I'm actually going to move through it. And again, not from a victim mindset, but really from a victor mindset. Like, okay, I'm not a victim, I'm a victor. It was, if anybody had been looking from the outside, people described me this way all the time. You are so strong. You are so resilient. And internally, what I want to say is, I am exhausted, and it is taking every shred of me to continue to show up. And what you don't know is that I'm getting depleted more and more every day. But on the surface, ironclad, strong as I can be. And that's where I say, like, the fear of confronting your things, the fear of failing, the fear of having to face the ugly, it's a powerful motivator, and it will get you a lot of places. But the cost and the depletion is incredibly high. And eventually, at that point where, like, I have taken everything out of the bank account. There are no more withdrawals that I can take.
Right. Oh yeah. That's so. How do you think I feel like there was a shift somewhere in there where you came through pain and you actually shifted into purpose.
Yes.
Because this became your new purpose with your new, with your coaching. So
Absolutely.
how do you think that your choices, you made choices and then excuse me,
You're fine.
took action, took
Yeah.
action. I'm sorry.
You're fine. You're fine.
You made choices, new choices,
Mm-hmm.
which led you to action.
Well, and that's the thing. So I think it's always a series of choices. It's never just one. But it's that first choice where you go, if I want a different outcome, I have to take a different approach and I'm ready to try that. That sets off the domino effect of the other decisions headed in a different direction, a different type of choice than the ones I'd already been making. Because we're always making choices. Like we're constantly making choices. And so that first time I hit that wall and went, I'm done. I'm exhausted. Like I'm ready to try a different approach to growing, healing, leading, being the human that I want to be. So there was that first decision and that resolve. And, one of my first decisions was I'm going to face the pain. Like instead of just trying to work my way around it and override it, I'm actually going to face the pain and I'm going to go to the places that I need to go. And then it was so many decisions after that of like, one of the big decisions I had to make was to grieve. I think especially in so many, like in American culture, honestly, in so many cultures, I think grieving is a massive missing piece in our healing. Because speaking of trauma, when trauma is not grieved, we store it mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically. It literally affects every part of who you are. And I had to grieve instead of just trying to, just don't let it affect you. It's like when I grieve it, and we know scientifically that grieving is a very healing mechanism. Like it is designed to empower, like to allow us to heal. And I had never grieved. No one had ever encouraged me to grieve. No one had ever allowed me to grieve. It was just, oh, you're fine. Keep going. You're so strong. And one of those first decisions was to grieve. Another decision was to get really powerful support. I didn't want the catharsis. And this may be an unpopular opinion. I know that this is a bit countercultural. I did not want the catharsis of talk therapy. I wanted healing. I didn't want to be handed coping mechanisms. I wanted healing. So that was another decision. Other decisions, all these factors were in play with my physical healing, was recognizing that I had to address things emotionally so that my body could heal, because we are so holistic. One thing absolutely affects the other. And that was part of the grieving process for me. All these things, and just going like, ooh, I cannot. Then there was the decision of, I can't know all these things and have utilized all these tools and had it literally change my life, where I started to, and I'm still in my physical healing process, like with Lyme and that kind of thing, but I can't know all of these things and have access to all of this and not share it with others. And seeing that so many people wired like me, leaders, visionaries, high achievers, were taking the same exact approaches that I used to, of just, I'm not going to let anything hold me down. That idea of like, I am not a victim. You're like, no, you're not a victim, but you need to grieve. Hey, you're not a victim. However, there are parts of you that need to be taken care of that will allow you to become so much healthier, stronger, impactful, resilient as the leader in your sphere of influence that you're called to be. So, I could go on and on, but yeah, the choices are just one after the other. And how am I going to continue to grow? How am I going to support my healing physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, on all of the fronts?
Absolutely. I'm always shocked at how our whole society is geared towards, okay, oh, your mother died? Well, when are you coming back to work?
Don't get me started.
And then there are other things that it's like, for every animal lover out there, if you lose a pet, that is a huge blow.
It is.
It's like, well, why aren't you back to work? That was just your cat. It was just your dog.
Mm-hmm.
No, because there's a relationship, there's a healing process, and I totally agree with you that can just, you can actually feel it like piling on.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. Because that's the thing is when we ignore things, and that was one of my decision points of realizing like I have made very active decisions to ignore this, whether it's numbing it, escaping from it, avoiding it, overriding it. All those decisions were avoidance decisions. And part of it, and this is not a blame game, but part of it is like, but I've been encouraged and conditioned to take this approach. And I have to do something that a lot of people will probably judge and not understand. Like, oh, don't be such a victim. It's like, this is the furthest thing from being a victim. Because when we do not grieve our pain, there's this misguided idea that, oh, well, if you don't get bogged down and if you don't let yourself get bogged down, it'll go away. It doesn't go away.
It doesn't.
It is stored. That's what you said. And you even like did that motion of like, you just feel it piling on. I'm like, because our bodies will literally carry the things physically that we do not emotionally process and take care of. It has to go somewhere. And I always use this analogy. And this really works physically, because so much of our bodies are made up of water. A high percentage of our physical makeup is water. So I use this illustration like this. Think of all of the pain, unprocessed trauma, grief, pain, even pain that is self-inflicted, things that you've chosen, that you carry, things that have happened to you that were not part of your choice, that are unprocessed through grief, that are unprocessed through care. When you hold that instead of releasing it through grief, instead of processing your pain through so many different tools and modalities, think of it like water that becomes stagnant. All those emotions, all those memories, all of that pain is like water that instead of flowing through your body through the process of grief and other processing tools, the water becomes stagnant. And we know that stagnant water, lethal. And it's like, hey, the water didn't go anywhere. It just became stagnant. And when you open up that process, all of a sudden the water's flowing, the water becomes clear, all systems in you clear out.
Oh, that's wonderful. I think I could just talk to you for hours and hours.
Same.
But can you tell us how our viewers can reach you? And I understand you have an offer for them as well.
I absolutely do. Yeah, I would love for you guys to find me. You can find me online at my website, primecollaborative.com. You can also find me. I'll be honest, I'm not on social media that much. It's one of those places that I cut out of my life when there's a lot going on, but you can absolutely find me on Instagram. There's a lot of free resources there. You can find me at Prime Collaborative there as well. And they're going to be linking a free resource for you. It is so powerful. It's one of those shifts I made to start operating instead of out of fear, stress, and overwhelm, out of a place of desire. That was a game changer and life changer for me. So there's that free resource that you can absolutely take advantage of.
I love that. Desire versus fear.
Yes.
Love it. It's like a 1-2.
That's right.
Okay. Thank you so much, Hannah.
Oh my goodness. My pleasure.
Coming up next is our biohacking tip of the week. So stay tuned. Everyone, this is Christy Boyd Johnson of the Barefoot Learning Club. It is a sad fact that today politics have completely taken over the schools. Real learning has been sacrificed for political agendas. As a result, kids are not learning to read. We have second and third graders barely reading, except for those lucky kids who will read no matter what the schools do to them. Unfortunately, that is not the majority. When I was teaching, I watched how really good reading systems were systematically eliminated from the schools. I saw kids shutting down and believing that they were too dumb to learn. Worse still, by making reading unattainable, they are essentially stealing our kids' futures. So the rebel that is me went on a quest to find reading programs that really work, that work with our neurological systems to enhance and speed up the learning process. And the number one thing that needs to happen is that we have to teach our kids to read. That is why Alicia and I started the Barefoot Learning Club. We are giving everyone the opportunity to learn to read in a way that is simple, fast, and fun. Best of all, your kids will start having success and never again believe that they are too dumb to learn. Go to barefootlearningclub.com now and sign up. Join me in being a rebel and let's get our kids reading. If they can read, they can literally do anything.
Hi everyone, it's Andy from Chronically Healthy Life. And on this week's biohacking episode, I want to talk about a highly unutilized berry that is usually only found during the holiday season between Thanksgiving and Christmas. And if you haven't guessed, what we're talking about is cranberries, right? And most people, they think of cranberries and they're used to those cans of cranberry jam that they use for stuffing inside the turkey or dipping into the turkey, right? What I'm talking about organic, real cranberries, right? And they are so high in valuable nutrients. And there's a recent study done by King's College in London that shows that there is multiple heart health benefits. So it really benefits your heart, your cardiovascular system. It dilates your vessels so you have better blood flow. So this is like so good for your heart. Even if you don't have heart conditions, it's going to give you better heart health. And on top of that, they are full of antioxidants to fight oxidation and stress, which leads to chronic inflammation, right? So anything that helps with inflammation is always going to help. They are also very high in vitamin C and vitamin E, which is also very good antioxidants to fight oxidation. And they also help balance the good and bad bacteria inside your gut. So there's so many benefits of cranberries. But how do you use cranberries? Like I said, most people eat it out of the can. Well, it's an interesting berry, and technically you can eat it raw, and they almost taste like a small sour apple, right? So you can snack on it, snacks, very tart if you're into that. But most people, you can make it into jams, or you can throw it into your salad. For us, this time of year is the only time we find it. So we just went to like Whole Foods. We just loaded up on these things, and we're throwing it inside our freezer so we can use cranberries throughout the year. And we make like sauces, we make jams, we make stuff for or smoothies, right? So there's so many benefits, and all you really need is about a handful of this. The studies show about 100 grams or about a handful daily to have the benefits for heart health, and you start seeing results in 2 hours after taking this. 2 hours, you start seeing better heart health. That's crazy, and their studies show that the heart health continues through the rest of the month. So definitely go out there, grab some cranberries. There's so many micronutrients, antioxidants, good for gut health, rather than just having it as a side staple for Thanksgiving or Christmas. It's time to put on your menu year round. That's our biohacking tip for a week. Go out and buy some cranberries before they're gone.
Welcome back to Chronically Healthy Life. So just so you know, he has never eaten a cranberry in his life.
Not raw anyway. We always cook it. So yeah, I didn't even realize I made that face when I popped it on. But hey, the second time I ate it, it wasn't that bad. It definitely did taste like a tart apple.
Yeah, it caught you by surprise how tart it is. And that's why people usually sweeten it. And if you do want to sweeten it, use monk fruit sugar. Like you said before, just, use a good sugar, not the bad one.
Exactly. And stay away from cranberry juices. I totally forgot to talk about that, because cranberry juices, guess what? The cranberries pretty tart, right? And when you drink cranberry juice, it's so sweet. It's not sweet because of the cranberries. It's sweet because they put so much sugar in it.
Unless you juice your own, then you're fine.
Exactly.
So we've been talking about hacking, right? And because it's DIY, we want you to make sure that that can be dangerous if you don't know what you're doing.
Correct.
So there are a lot of tracking tools that is on the market. We use a lot of them, like the Apple Watch.
Mm-hmm.
We have a ring that tracks our sleep. So you get a lot of data that give you power to analyze what your body's doing, so you can tweak how your biohacking thing is going to look like and improve your performance. So, I know that when you train your clients, you always ask them to wear like a heart rate monitor, right?
Yes. So, in particular, how I train my clients, I want to get the heart rate up for the cardio aspect, right? But I wanted to come back down before we go into the strength aspect. And, like Apple Watches are great for that, Fitbits and, Google Watch. There's just a whole bunch, we like Apple because we're just in the Apple everything. But, it really gives you a good snapshot of what's going on inside your heart, your condition of your heart health. And over the last 3 years, like I saw some major correlations of people's health going backwards because the heart rate is so much higher than it used to be 3 years ago. And it also takes so much longer for heart rate recovery to come down, which is an indication of heart health going the wrong direction.
So that's an indication that you're not doing well and you need to do something about it, right?
Exactly.
But what other metrics do you suggest that people start tracking? So if you're new to biohacking, what do you need to monitor?
I think one of the really big ones that no one monitors because they think it's something that you monitor only when you're diabetic is your blood sugar, right? And people that are diabetic, they monitor the blood sugar, but more importantly, you also want to be monitoring your ketones, right? And a lot of people don't know what ketones are. They hear ketones and they think ketogenic diet, and then everything that goes to the ketogenic diet, like you don't have to be on a ketogenic diet to measure ketones. Your body burns ketones normally if it knows how to function properly. And, your body should be able to burn ketones using ketones, which is like fat for fuel. And I think for most people, they lost the ability to burn fat. So I don't care what you eat or how much you work out. If your body depends on sugar for fuel, guess what? You're never going to get rid of certain body fat in your body.
Okay, so heart rate, ketones, blood sugar. What else?
Sleep's important, especially deep sleep, REM sleep when you're actually dreaming, right? You should see your heart rate during your sleep cycle too, right? Because it should be going up momentarily as you sleep because you're in the repair phase to digest your food. But if you ate your food a few hours before you sleep, then it should do its job, and then for the rest of the night, it should slowly come back down. But if it stays elevated, that means your body's in stress mode all the time, or you just ate too much before going to sleep. So there's a lot of things that you can track.
Yeah, I know that the Oura ring these days, they're actually tracking the stress level.
Yes.
So that's very helpful. I can correlate that to like when I'm dealing with a really stressful call or a really terrible meeting or something.
Or just certain people that just push you in, if you saw one of my I think it was our first or second episode when my mom called and everyone said my face has changed, right? Literally, if they had a beeper mode on my Oura ring, it probably would have gone nuts. But, yes, stress is so important to track. And a lot of people aren't tracking it, right? So the Oura ring, it tracks your stress levels. It tracks your body temperature. It actually knows, when you're getting sick, when you're going to get sick before you get sick, which is really great, right? Because if you know that your body is needing that extra recovery, then you're going to take time off to recover. And I think that's very important.
So let's say that next year you want to start doing some biohacking. Where do you suggest people start?
I think, to start the new year, intermittent fasting is probably the easiest way to do it, right? And start with like what's that 16-8 window, right? That's right, 16-8. Yeah, 16 plus 8 is 24, right? 16-8 window where you're not eating for 16 hours and you're only eating in an 8-hour window. I think that would be a good start for most people because it's totally doable. It's just if you think about 9 to 5 the work hours, then you're only eating 9 to 5 or whatever it may be, right?
Yeah, I know we for us, in the morning we do coffee,
Hmm.
and what we put in our coffee is either like a butter, ghee, or
Mhm.
like MCT oil.
Correct.
So that's one of those things that you could do without changing your habits or you're changing your routine at all. Just add a little bit of MCT or something into your coffee, and that's your start to the whole biohacking routine.
And that's an easy hack. Rather than using your flavored creamer, like you said, we all have butter. Make sure it's like grass fed butter, right? Or some coconut oil, right? That's what MCT is derived from.
Hmm. And maybe something like vitamins and minerals.
Definitely, I think it's really hard to get all your vitamins and minerals from the food you eat. And one of the things we tell people to do is you should be eating at least a pound of vegetables a day if you want to get all those vitamins and minerals, and not just one vegetable, not like just potatoes, but like a whole spectrum of vegetables as colorful as possible. And people will say, a pound? You know how much a pound of vegetables is?
It's a lot.
It's a lot, right? So when people say you can get, oh, my doctor says you can get everything in your food. Well, he's not lying, but you need to eat a pound of it because food is not the same as it used to be, in previous generations for grandparents and great grandparents. There's just not as much nutrition in food.
Hmm. Especially if you're doing like a plant-based diet, a lot of times you don't get the full spectrum of your amino acids,
Oh, for sure.
right? Unless you're eating like spirulina all day long or
Exactly.
so you have to be really careful how to balance all your nutrient needs.
And copper is a mineral that we actually need, and it's getting harder to get copper from our foods, especially if you're vegan or vegetarian, because the biggest source of copper is eating animal products, especially liver, which we don't even eat a lot of, right? So
It's tough, I know, unless you're up and Greenfield. Let me talk about he eats animals from
head to tail.
from snout to tail. I'm like, okay, how do you do that?
That is so true. That is so true.
So okay.
Right. So we're gonna come back in a short little break.
Hello, we are Mutts and Meows Rescue, a 501c3 nonprofit, foster-based, no-kill group. Mutts and Meows Rescue pulls dogs and cats from surrounding shelters in the greater Houston area. We even pick up dogs and cats abandoned on the streets. Mutts and Meows Rescue is foster-based and rely on your donations to keep rescuing. To know more about us is to know more about our furry friends and help them find their forever homes. Come visit us at Mutts and Meows Rescue on Facebook today and decide how you can make a difference.
Welcome back to Chronically Healthy Life. So to wrap up this episode, let's say you want to start biohacking. So start looking for shopping for. This is the best time for shopping, right?
Yes, Black Friday
Or
just
some kind
ended.
of,
Yeah.
like a wearable tag, like Apple Watch or what the other watches.
There's Google Watch. There's I'm sure there's there's a whole bunch of watches out there.
Yeah. So depending on what you want to track, look for the right tool to give you the right statistics so you can, look at your progress, right? And where do you start biohacking? Start with your coffee,
That's
fasting,
right. Yep.
cold showers, something easy to do. It's already part of your routine. You do take a shower, you drink your coffee, just
Correct.
Change it up a little bit. And that's how you start.
One more easy tip: drink half your body weight in water. People just aren't doing it enough. They don't drink enough water.
There you go. So who do we have next week?
Next week we have Kay Griggs. She is so inspirational when you meet her. Of course, her main business is cooking for events, but there's so much more in that, and I don't want to leak that out. I'll let her explain what happened to her to get into that journey.
Okay, great. So, make sure you come back here and join us here on Friday, 7 p.m. CST. You can watch past episodes at watch.e360tv.com in the Vitality TV network. And of course, we always love to hear from you. You can give us your comments on our Facebook page, chronicallyhealthylife.com. You can rewatch this episode and all our past episodes on our website, chronicallyhealthylife.com. on our YouTube channel. And if you have anything to tell us, just email us at anything@chronicallyhealthylife.com. We'll see you next week.
See you next week.
Hey everybody, it's Portia Booker, and I'm your host of the Grief Grand Tour Show. Join me every Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Vitality Network right here on E360 TV.